Here we go. A little slow internet. Okay. I got the email saying it's live, but I don't see it. Well, welcome to the Life of Joey Calvo there we go. Welcome to the Life of Joey Calvo podcast. I'm Joey Calvo. Please continue to help the victims of the Texas floods and the California wildfires. Today, our guest is, you got there with me one moment, folks, Wes Al Dhaher. He is the creator of the Brotherhood of the Wolf, a dark fantasy series that dives into blood rituals, ancient monsters, and spiritual decay. Wes, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks so much, Joey. It's great to be here.
Okay. So explain to me all this. And what led into this?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I think one of the things about growing up as a millennial, you see a lot of grew up with a lot of cable, right? And generally, regardless of what was going on, generally, if it was airing, whether it was on TV or in theaters, or if it was a book that was published, generally the quality was good. There was a lot of crap, and there was a lot of bad stuff, but generally the quality of the storytelling was good. But then I think with a couple of things, as Hollywood studios started becoming more, I think they carrying. I think like the skills degraded, but also in the publishing world, the rise of self-publishing, where now everybody who wanted to tell a story could do it and push something out there. So eventually it flooded the market with like really bad quality stories, really derivative things. And so for me, it's just like saying, listen, storytelling is a very powerful mechanism to really heal people, right? Because not to get all nerdy on you, like Aristotle, the ancient Greek philosopher, he talked about two things. He talked about, there's things that there's truth that you explore through dialectics, right? So logic, like if A, then B, math is dialectic, right? 1 + 1 = 2. And just like that kind of rational, dry way of examining the truth. But then there was another bucket of persuasion and examining the truth, which is called rhetoric, right? And art is part of that. And what's rhetoric? It's to like kind of reach into people's hearts and kind of like move them emotionally. And you could move them emotionally different ways. But generally, the idea is that the best rhetoric is based on the good dialectic. So like the idea that, with bad rhetoric, you could fool some of the people some of the time, or you can fool some of the people all the time and all the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. And that's true because with good rhetoric is based off of good dialectic. Good rhetoric is based off of truth. And so I think people, the way that storytelling is supposed to be is that people are supposed to like read a story or watch a story and kind of come out of that with a feeling of catharsis. So like, one of the things that we specialize in with Brotherhood of the Wolf is like, it's dark fantasy, but dark fantasy can be considered like a mixture of fantasy and horror. With horror, the point of the horror genre is that you kind of have that feeling of like, you come out of that and you like have emotionally this coming to terms with the concept of death, right? And or guilt. So like a lot of times, like if you look at movies like I Know What You Did Last Summer, that's exactly what, somebody did something and now a killer's out to get them. So that idea is and so, if a piece of horror media does well, it'll always give you that kind of feeling. If it doesn't do it, it might throw a lot of blood and splatter and gore and guts flying around. But if you don't walk away with that kind of feeling, then it's probably didn't hit the mark. And so a lot of what's coming out right now, whether it's in Netflix or in publishing, is just not hitting the mark. And people are like, well, what do we do? Do we just watch TikTok videos? So so what I wanted to do was be like, okay, let me do something that gives people that catharsis, but do it in a very different setting. And so, being Muslim and always like I visited like Salahuddin's castle in the Middle East and things like that. I'm like, wow, nobody's made movies about this stuff. Like I visited like these Ottoman palaces, things like that in Turkey. And like, wow, nobody's said anything about this. And so I'm like, well, let me do it. And so it's a Brotherhood of the Wolf is a dark fantasy that's set in a 15th century Ottoman setting. This is around the same time that Dracula existed, but with a dark fantasy twist. So like there's monsters, there's evil elves, there's demonic cyborgs, all sorts of cool stuff. So that's how we that's the approach that we're taking, is like, and doing it in comic book form.
Okay. Okay, that was going to be my next question, is how is it being produced right now? So you're kind of doing the old Dungeons and Dragons in the 21st century.
Yeah, you could think of it that way. Like another way you could think about it is like almost like you could think of it that way. And Dungeons and Dragons in 21st century, as far as what I'm doing as a business, but in terms of the setting, you can consider it like The Witcher, but with harem pants.
Yeah,
so, like the MC Hammer pants. Yeah.
I mean, I was never a big fan of like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. Even when they had, and this is telling my age, folks. Even when they had a cartoon version of it on Saturday mornings, I wasn't a big fan of it. I think I watched it maybe once, and I'm like, nah. I mean, I was more into. I mean, the type of fantasy I'm into that is like superheroines, super friends back then and now, especially Wonder Woman now, since she's been coming out a lot more since 2017, 2016. That's my type of fantasy. So, but explain a little bit more about, go a little more deeper into what you're doing and how did it really, how can we say this? What really led you to really want to do this?
Yeah, so I was, there was a period of time when I was doing, like, I was a marketer for a startup that was in the e-commerce space, and I'm not going to mention their name or anything like that, but a long story short, they were really big on scamming.
Oh, okay.
So they'd be like, yeah, well, because they just wanted to bring in subscribers, and they wanted to bring in subscribers, but and they're like, well, but we know that these subscribers, it's not really good. It's not really what they want, or it's not really what they need, right? Because what we're offering is like really expensive, and it's you just have somebody who like wants to like sell, I don't know, Etsy stuff that they make, and they're like, yeah, well, here's this really expensive monthly subscription, and you could do that. And for those types of people, they knew that those kind of customers wouldn't be successful, but they're like, we don't care, we just need to get the number of subscribers to a certain level so that then investors can come in and say, oh wow, this is a really successful company, let's invest in it. And I'm like, and just other different things. So I'm like, you know what, I left that company, and I'm like, you know what, why not just do what I want to do, like work for myself, like put out product that I feel good about, and not feel like, oh man, like I have a boss, and it's like, I'm like, hey, don't you see that there's something wrong here? And they don't care what happens. So it's like, no, like it's just like relationship between me and the customer directly. And I wanted that to be the storytelling, the fiction, because I was always interested in that. And initially I was like, okay, let me write some novels because let me write these as novels. But then I'm like, wait a minute. I can't be too self-centered about this. I have to figure out what do the people want, right? Like the guys who are like millennials and Zoomers, etc. And so I just started talking to some of them, like, hey, do you guys read any books? They're like, not really.
Okay.
Not really. We, but they watch Netflix. They're like on social media a lot. When they do read anything, it was like manga, Japanese manga, like Japanese comic books. I'm like, okay, so I have to take a different tack here, right? I can't just give them what they're looking for in the way that I want. I need to give them what they're looking for in the way that they want. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't have the capital to do movies.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not just sitting on like $1 billion so I'm like, let me just do these as comic books, but do them in a way that really respects the medium of comic books, right? Not this idea that, well, I wanted to make, because a lot of indie comic book publishers have this idea. It's called the maybe movie model. They just they slap together like some storyboards, and they'd be like, well, this is our comic book. Hey, Disney, Warner Bros., you want to buy this?
Yeah.
But there's no substance there. There's no story. There's no craft of the art. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. So I'm like, I went ahead and just like troweled like Comic Cons and just like connected with people who worked in the business, like Disney, like Marvel, etc. So
and all that, yeah.
Like, for example, our primary artist, he worked for Disney, and he drew Kung Fu Panda for Disney.
Wow.
Comic. So it's like, so I'm like, no, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it right. And in order to do it right, I need to have like the people who know what they're doing, like the pros. So I went ahead and gathered that, and so that's why it's like, but because I did that, including getting like people who are like pros at storytelling. Like one of them is like a screenwriter, a pro screenwriter. It's like we looked at what I wrote as an amateur, and we just had to nuke it. We had to nuke like 95% of it.
Oh wow!
And start afresh. But I'm like, that's what the quality needed, right? So so it's like, it's my world, and obviously my characters, and obviously I oversee every single page. But the people who are actually doing the writing and doing the art are legit pros. So that way it's just not this fly-by-night thing where it's like, support me because I'm doing it. I'm like, no, support this because it's good. That's what I'm trying to to people who,
All right, so go a little deeper into what this dark fantasy series is like.
Yeah, so I think like there are different ways that was described, like especially the first arc of the series. So the Brotherhood of the Wolf's first arc encompasses issues number 1 through issues number 5, and we call that the blood tax arc. And it could be described as either like the Byzantine Suicide Squad, the Muslim Dirty Dozen, Turkish Inglorious Bastards, that kind of like thing. So it's like essentially where we get like a group of misfits, each with their own issues, agendas, unhealthy coping mechanisms, and we force them to work together to do no less than save the world, right? So that's the that's the idea. And so the first 5-issue arc, which is, like I said, blood tax, it introduces the reader to the unique world and characters of the Brotherhood of the Wolf. And what I wanted to do was like to tell a complete and satisfying story, because a lot of times people, when they do this sort of storytelling, like, okay, at the end of every page there's a cliffhanger, and then at the end of every story arc, like you can consider it like a story arc, like a season in a TV show. They put in another cliffhanger, like, okay, well, I just want a satisfying resolution, right, to this one story. And so what we do is like, no, this is part of a greater series. The story does continue, but we crafted it in a way where it's like, you start at issue number 1, when you end at issue number 5 for the first story arc, you have a satisfying ending. And if you want to continue to issue number 6, 7, 8, etc., then you could do that, and it gets better and better. But if you're like, I'm good, this hits the spot for me, then great, it'll do that in a satisfying way.
Okay.
And so that's why it's like, it's just important to me that we don't have a project that's going to ghost you after getting you hooked on the story, or change writers halfway through. And so that's why we worked really hard on mapping the story, and the pages are being like, right now as I'm speaking to you, issue number 1 is done. Issue number 2 is 2 or 3 pages away from being done, minus the cover, and issue number 3, like the first 10 pages of that are done from an ink point of view. And so the plan is every like subsequent issues releasing every 3 months because nobody likes waiting around for any kind of piece of media where just like I'm waiting years and years and years. Like for some series, unfortunately, like, people had to do that for like several months, and that's just not cool, right?
Yeah.
It's like you've made a girl fall in love with you, and then you just ghost her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the idea is, the flagship series is a graphic novel series, like comic book, but we're too passionate about the story and characters to fit it all onto a visual page, let alone wait like 3 months between issues without letting some creativity out. So, which is why, like for the Blood Tax arc, we wrote an entire 30,000 word novella.
Wow.
Like prose set between issues 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And so, do you have to read the novella to understand the Blood Tax arc? No, not at all. But it will enhance the experience and deepen your understanding of the characters. And it's like what we try to do is like really respect the reader, regardless of what medium that we're playing in, right? So the novella, even though it's like a bonus thing that you like, if you pay an extra $3.99, you get the novella. We make sure that's a pretty damn fun story full of action, heart, humor, maybe a little bit of romance. Initially, I was like, I don't want romance, but like, you know what? No, I mean, I think part of being human is romance. We put in a little bit of romance in there.
Okay.
There's also a goat, but that'll be people can find out about that later.
I was gonna say, describe the characters in this. So like for like those that are interested, they're like, okay, so talk about the characters that are in this.
Yeah. So for the Blood Tax arc, for the first character I could talk about is like Tahsin. And Tahsin is a man made of contradictions. He's a janissary, which is an elite member of the slave infantry of the Ottoman Empire. But like I said, he's also a slave. So he was sold to the Sultan as a boy. He spent most of his life training, but he's never really felt home as a soldier. He's cowardly and thinks running to fight another day, or perhaps never at all, is always a wiser decision. But through no fault of his own, he finds himself caught up at stakes too large to run from when, after the Battle of Varna, which is like a legit historical battle that happened in Bulgaria in 1444, he's asked to collect boys to replenish the ranks. And then there's Koja, who's like the 7-foot tall Terminator type guy who's masked, and he's forged from like a childhood in the fighting arena of Constantinople. And now he's essentially an unstoppable killing machine. But he hides a scarred face and tortured past behind his iron mask, which he never removes except when he's alone. And so Koja's been ordered by the Ottoman higher-ups to protect Tahsin, which is a kind of a difficult task, surprisingly. And then there's Jem, who's like a Sipahi warrior. Like the Sipahis were like the Ottoman versions of knights, like cavalry. And he's like son number 7 of an aristocrat. And he wants to be like, a big shot one day. How it's like having the youngest kid who nobody likes, nobody respects. And so he's like, has a bit of a chip on his shoulder. But
I'm the youngest in my family. I don't have any chips on my shoulder. I know.
Well, you're the good one. You're good. Yeah. So, but he has to he doesn't really want to waste his time having to babysit like somebody like Tahsin. Right? And so he's kind of a slap first, ask questions later sort of leader. And being placed under the command of a coward like Tahsin is probably akin to the worst torture imaginable, and he lets everyone around him know about it at every turn. And then you have Cardinal Julian Cesarini, who's appointed by the Pope Eugene IV, and Cardinal Cesarini is obsessed with bringing the Ottomans to heel under any means necessary, including the use of black magic and occult stuff and alchemical meddling, probably meddling with powers behind his comprehension. And there's no line that he won't do to aid Christendom. And so those are the characters, the main characters in the Blood Tax arc of Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Okay, so how can people reach out to delve into this dark fantasy?
Yeah, I think probably the best thing is like low investment is just go to our website, talesofkhair.com.
All right, what was it again?
Yeah, talesofkhair.com. So it's TALES, and I'll put it in the chat here for you.
Okay,
Jay.
yeah.
TALESOFKHAYR.com. And you know, they if it resonates with them, they could sign up to the free email list where they'll get an exclusive video that like showcases all these characters. It was made by our creative director who graduated from film school, so it's a very well produced professional video. It's not just me.
Yeah.
It's not just my face talking about stuff. So
yeah. Okay. And so, all right. So you said the first novel is almost done. The second one is close to being done. The third one is just started. Where do you see yourself? Where do you see this series going in 5 years?
Well, you know what? I mean, I think it'll be like it's got a lot of characters, and like I think each character, depending on the kind of person that you are, you'll latch onto, right? Mm-hmm. And like you're a superhero fan, so my favorite superhero is Batman.
Yeah.
Others might be like my son, a 6-year-old son. He loves Spider-Man. He's crazy about Spider-Man.
Oh.
And so, like in that way, it's like every protagonist might resonate with different people depending on who you are. And so just like a large universe that is multimedia. So like I said, we got the graphic novels that are going to be pumped out every 3 months. And the reason it's not shorter just because 3 months is what we could do while maintaining like high quality, like quality is first. And so so you got the graphic novels, physical only, by the way, every 3 months. And you know, you have bonus things like the novella. We're working on a visual novel, video game. So just trying to make a multimedia so that because some people might not like comic books, but they love prose. Some people might not like to read anything, but they love video games. So for us, it's just like giving people a taste of the world, of the characters, of the story, but through different media. And so that's where what we'd like to do.
All right. Well, Wes, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And anytime you want to come back on to promote it some more, you know, just let me know. We'll be happy to have you back on.
Appreciate it, Joey. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everybody, for watching the Life with Joey Calvo podcast. God bless you all.